Well, hey there, YouTube. Petey Two Finger. Excuse me, I'm just finishing up my lunch. We had Aldi brand chimichanga, and those were cooked in the oven. Not the microwave, convection oven.
Conventional oven.
Conventional
I
oven.
think convection is something different.
Okay. They're not bad in the microwave, but infinitely better in the convention oven.
The oven. It's an oven. It's a normal oven.
Happy Mother's Day to Frank Zappa and his Mothers of Invention. So, I'm having a Aldi brand lemon lime, which I haven't had. I've been making my own lemon lime pop, which it's good, but I gotta tell you, this really isn't bad. It's not bad.
It's hitting the spot today.
It's hitting the spot today. That chimichanga. Oh, that was good. So, last night I watched. It was a movie. Violence.
Something else with a V.
Violence. Violence, adventure, violence, venture, violence. It's a Chinese or Japanese animated. It's called Genki Motion. The guy behind this project is named Ujicha, and he has Violence Voyager. He has made a few films. There's one called The Burning Buddha Man, which I started watching that today, and it's a similar style of animation. They call it Genki Motion. Genki Nation. And it's paper cutouts. Someone has painstakingly drawn everything. They draw the tree, they'll have a house, and they'll set it up in 3D, and then they'll move the characters walking by. So there's no motion on the mouth. The English dubbing is pretty good on Violence Voyager. It's not bad. And I really don't want to talk much about the film Violence Voyager. I will just say that I have never seen anything like it, but it seemed very familiar, especially some of the artwork, some of the designs in it. It was like I had seen that before. So there's some common, what do they call that, Jungian archetypes at play, perhaps. I do need to warn you, Violence Voyager is, it's really heavy duty on the shock and gore, including stuff I've never seen in a movie before. So if you're not up for, to have your boundaries stretched a little bit, and see some, and it's paper cutout, it's artfully done, but still some of the stuff in this movie was like they just didn't need to go there so far that they did. That being said, it didn't seem exploitive so much, too much, but I like reading reviews for this, they're saying like, how could you recommend this movie considering what happens in it and the gore and other aspects of it. But I'm going to go ahead and recommend it. I have never seen anything like it. I did enjoy watching it, although there is some off-putting content in it. Um, there is an animal squad that kind of it's unrealistic, it's campy, and it's kind of crazy that all of a sudden these animals are taking charge and fighting the battle for the character. But they were great. The animals were great. It's a bat. The bat is so funny what it does. There is a cat in the movie who's awesome. Derek, the cat. And then there was an ape. And that's really all. That's as far as I want to go. Just trust me. You can see this thing on lookmovies.com. Has it, and they have the Burning Buddha Man as well, which you'll probably, if you're like me and you see something this bizarre, but it's a thing. It's like there's a whole aesthetic going on, even with like the color palettes for the different scenes. And the way that he did the mixed media effects in the film are outstanding. I have really never seen anything like that. It was startlingly fantastic, and the editing, the way that they have achieved some additional effects by superimposing stuff like smoke and fire images, it just worked. It just worked really well. The soundtrack is the sound effects are fantastic in it. I loved all of the sound effect editing in it, and the music. It's kind of absent at times, but then at other times it was almost awkward and mechanical, but just fantastic, like kind of 8-bit video game type stuff. Now, I am not a manga. I don't know what manga is, and I don't want to incriminate myself like I'm. There's that whole thing with Japanese culture where I think when white guys are into it, it's creepy because it's always like little girls showing their panties and stuff. There's a lot of like Sailor Moon and she's got a pea or something. It's very pedo, very Uncle Chester. I'm not down with that weeaboo. Like I eat sushi, that whole thing. It makes me want to punch a hole in a wall. Like, I do not like that stuff. And this movie, that's what it is. It's, I don't know what you call it. Japanese, it's Genkimation, but I'm sure it's called something else. It's manga or anime or whatever that stuff is. So keep in mind, I'm not coming into this from that angle, where I'm sure there are other reviews that are people that reviewed this simply because that's their thing. If you're a weeb, of course. No, I'm not a weeb. So other than that, yeah, we make music here in the living room. We've got this set up with a mixer, and then so I'll have a guitar with a multi-effector going into the mixer. My wife has a bass going into her multi-effector with amp and cab sim. And it's like there's a 4-channel noise gate, then there's an EQ, then there's a little separate like preamp it's like a karaoke preamp that has echo. And we use a room mic because we're both wearing headphones and it's hard to hear each other. So we have this room mic, which is an unusual mic. It's a condenser mic, and it's made for C batteries. Now, I don't like using C batteries. I like using 18650 lithium ion. So I took a little round wooden dowel, put a pair of screws into it, and ran a wire in between the screws. And that acts as a filler. So instead of running the 2 or 3 C batteries that it normally took, that runs off a single 18650 cell. So that room mic sits, it's mounted in between us, and it works great, right, honey?
Yeah.
The room mic, it's really clear. The only problem is the cable, where the cable comes in to meet the mic. There's a little rubber, thing to prevent it from getting jerked around and breaking. Well, the cable was halfway there, and it would do this make this noise when it wasn't making a good solid connection. And our special friend Kita Chicky Bobitin, Mr. Bobitis, sits up on this piece of furniture that the mic is screwed onto, and he starts cleaning himself, and he starts shaking the mic, and then the mic cuts out and does this whole thing, and it's blasting in our headphones. So I came home today. Last night I looked at it because it's getting worse, and it was bad. So I looked at it last night, and there's a single Phillips screw towards the bottom of that mic. So unscrewed the fastener, pulled it out, and there it is. I can access the wiring. So it's two wires with shielding on them, and then those wires have their own individual insulation copper wrapped around it with black plastic wrapped around that. Then there's another sheeting of black plastic, the main outer cable. So when you have to stick a real sharp cutter in this braiding and cut it, and then pull it out and twist it together, twist both of them together, and that's the ground. You put some solder on that, and that solders to the PCB. Well, every time I had to do it, was it 4 times?
Yeah, I think so.
I had to do the whole procedure 4 times. And this is like taking it all apart, unsoldering the 3 connections. Actually, the 2 hot wires for this mic go to the same point on the PCB. So it's like this mic has a stereo cable with 2 RCAs on it, but they're connected to the same thing. It's mono. And this mic is made by Bose, which is just perfect for me because my opinion of that company, it's for fake audiophiles, like guys who think that Bose is like the end all be all, but it really isn't. It's just kind of regular consumer grade stuff that they charge you 4 times the amount for. So yeah, my patience meter had to kick in. He was getting antsy and thinking I wasn't going to be able to pull it off because I fudged it 4 times. Every time I would solder the ground, all that heat would cut into the existing insulation on the hot line, the mains, and it would short the ground. So I did it the 4th time. There was one time where we did it where when I opened it up, there was a ball of solder wedged in between the ground plane and another solder pad that was a hot pad. So that right there, it's like that was like maybe the 3rd one. And the first couple, I was just in a hurry and frustrated. So here's what I'm getting at. I'm not up here on my soapbox saying, yeah, Petey is an expert with his soldering. Not at all. I'm coming on here saying when you're doing this type of work, it's really important to slow down a little bit. Take a look at when you say you're done. Take a look at the area where you soldered and make sure there isn't some weird little ball of solder that's wedged itself in between 2 points that's going to make the thing, maybe it'll make it a catastrophic failure. You never know. So, patience and perseverance. Don't give up. the cable on this mic was so ridiculously long, and if I'm cutting out this much every time I fail, how many times could I fail before I ran out of cable? Well, probably around probably 200 of those, because the cable is unbelievably long for this mic. This mic is like Bose, like you're going to be out at the convention singing Volare, and your karaoke machine's going to be, back in the hotel room. So perseverance means, even though it was a pain in the ass fiddly thing, I've got this sore on my thumb. I gotta get in there and fiddle with this thing, and I'm leaning over it. The work area is not ideal. I really need to be kind of reclining or I'll experience back pain. So I'm hunched over. I'm fiddly fucking with this thing, and it's just not fun. You know what I mean? And I'm hungry. Like, we've been out all day. The chimichangas were out of the oven getting cold, and I resigned myself to the fact that I've got this. It may take me a few times, but eventually. So through my thought process was like, okay, what's going wrong? Well, there's so much heat that it's cutting through this thin, like the wire that they use for this. It's the worst wire. Anytime there's a piece of string and they wire wrap around that, oh, I hate that wire. And that's the center core of this. That's what's going on at the center. And then that's got plastic on it. Then there's another sheet of copper that's braided that you got to snip down and pull it off, and then try to gather that together. So it was falling apart. That braid, when I caught it, it would just fall apart, and I ended up with just a tiny little pigtail, and there was all that heat of the iron. So we applied a heat clip. It's an aluminum scissors looking thing that clamps on, that stops the heat from passing that point. And I think we used that heat clip on the last two only.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was only on the last two where I figured to use that. So, and again, like it never didn't work, except the time where the solder ball was shorting it. It was working. If you pushed it in and then let it sit, it would be fine. But if you would bump it, it probably would start crackling again. So I didn't want that. It was doing that originally, and it got to the point where it was out of hand, almost unusable. So doing this repair, it sucked. And I feel great because like the first time when I fixed it, I felt great. I was like, that didn't take that long. I did it good. It looks good. We put it all back together, turned it on, and it was passing signal, but if you jiggled it, it crackled. So perseverance. Don't beat up yourself. It's not the end of the world. Usually with some thought process of assessing the situation, thinking through, you'll be able to figure out what you need to do. And that's the whole thing. That's the key to it, because anybody can get a soldering iron, and my solder's got the flux in it. You don't even need flux, which that's a whole nother thing. I never solder without flux. Is it out here?
No.
Yeah. Well, trust me, I've got a precious little thing of flux. But the point is, anybody can get a soldering iron and some solder and get in there and start hacking away and learning what works and what doesn't work, what you'll regret. But that skill of being able to slow yourself down, think through it, figure out exactly what you need to do, which in this case was I needed to eliminate the heat passing through and cutting into this wire. So the way that I twisted the braid together, applying the flux on the end, and just using a heat clamp just when I'm tinning the wire, and really not having the soldering iron contact any longer than I needed to, just tapping it on there, and then applying, getting it bent perfectly so it's going to stay right where it needs to be staying, putting the clip on it, and then coming in with the iron and having a mass of unsoldered brass in between, copper in between that. That was the one that worked. I was thinking through, like, okay, you've tried it 3 times and blown it. So the 4th time I got it, and I could have been tempted to, like, go get a different cable. Like, you know what, fuck this wire, I'm going to get something else, but I didn't. It took extra long. My wife was getting antsy. The food got cold. And I don't blame her, you know. It's not fun sitting there when watching somebody else work when the shit isn't coming out, when it's not coming up good. If you're watching somebody work and it's like all of a sudden you turn it on and it works and you can put the shit away and move on, that's not so bad. But when it's like the 4th time and you're about to power it up, it's like, you know, Hail Mary, please let this work. Were you praying?
No.
On the 4th one? I was. So yeah, patience, perseverance, and prayer. All right, you guys, take care of yourselves. Try one of those Aldi brand steak chimichangas in your oven, in your convention oven. Pretty good. Tasty stuff. Check out that Violence adventure movie, Violence Voyager. And let me know what you thought if you checked that one out. Let me know. Come back and let me know if you're having nightmares or you had to stop it. You couldn't handle it. Because that wouldn't surprise me. Stay warm or keep cool. It's going to be getting hot this week. I've got to take my cover off my air conditioner. Hug your pets. Give them an extra treat from Petey, and peace.